Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2018 and a brand new experiment on the channel where we're taking a look at what would happen if you had 3,500 legends loaded into the FM18 database. Now this is one of the most comprehensive databases I've seen put together, and it even includes a nice face pack. So if we click on Alfredo Di Stefano of Real Madrid, you can see it's got the picture of the legend right there. His stats are absolutely unbelievable. One of the best players of all time, Di Stefano. And this is true for most clubs. So we can have a look even at Kaiserslautern. They've got Fritz Walter as one of their key players. But you can see here their manager is a legend. They've got Otmar Walter in there, Fritz Walter in there. And when you look at their senior squad, it is every legend that every club has had is pretty much in this game. It is so comprehensive. When you go to Inter, they have got a sensational squad roster. Herrera, their legendary manager, but if you go to the top of the valuation screens here, you can see Ronaldo back at the club, Javier Zanetti in there as well, Alvaro Recoba is in there as an 18-year-old wonder kid. So every single club, it doesn't matter who you go to, even Stoke have got Stanley Matthews, United have got Bobby Charlton back, Gerd Muller back at Bayern, George Best back in the game as well as a 21-year-old Northern Irishman. It really is just so comprehensive. So what we're going to do in this experiment is see how these clubs would do if they had all of their best players of all time at a young age in the club at the same time. We're then going to take it forward 1 year in this part and then 2 or 3 years in each future part. So do drop a like on this video if you enjoy it and you would like to see another part to this experiment. And make sure to subscribe to the channel as well if you want to see the future parts, which will come out in about 2-day installments going ahead. And obviously more experiments on the channel over time as well. But what we're going to just do is just have a quick look through some of the major clubs. So if we have a look at Manchester United here, you can see Alex Ferguson back in charge of the club. You've got Bobby Charlton and Roger Byrne at the club as well. When you look at their senior squad, Duncan Edwards, Dennis Law, Ryan Giggs, Schmeichel's in there, Rio Ferdinand's in there, David Beckham is back in the game with that horrific blonde haircut. 18 years old as well, so this save has got a good 10 or more years to go. Andy Cole at the club. If we just drop down to Newcastle, the team that I support, you can see Alan Shearer, McDonald, Beardsley, Gascoigne, Milburn's in there. It really is. Gary Speed as well back in the team. Rob Lee, of course. Nobby Solano is back at the club. I mean, this is a fantastic database for you to manage your original supported club and just get to use every single possible legend. And then, of course, Nottingham Forest are back in the Premier League for some reason. They've just been relocated to the Premier League. So if we have a quick look at the league table, I think they may have put the most successful teams of all time back in their original leagues because you can see Leeds are in there. We've also got Sunderland, unfortunately, back in the Premier League. Wolves are up in there as well. But if we have a look at Southampton and their players, I'm hoping to see a few familiar faces in here. Can't see Gareth Bale in the first team, but if we drop to the under-23s, is he in here anywhere? Doesn't look like it. He did start out at Southampton, and here they are. So you've got Wayne Bridge, Gareth Bale, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Luke Shaw, Theo Walcott, Lallana, Chambers. They're all back at the club in the under-18s. The depth to this database is sensational that they've been dropped that far down. And it really is. They've got Charlie Austin, he's 27 years old, still in the game here. Matt Letizier's in there. Most players have been either renamed, but there are still some existing ones sitting in the team as well. So it is very, very comprehensive. That's the only word that I can really use to describe this. If we have a look at Arsenal and their senior squad, there'll be a lot of familiar faces in here from their Invincible season. So Arsene Wenger will be reset by his age. You've got Thierry Henry in here as a 17-year-old ready to tear the Premier League apart once again. Dennis Bergkamp, Pires is in there, Vieira, Wright, even Kanu back in the game. Pat Rice is a player at right back. Tony Adams back in central defence. And David Seaman, of course, back in goal. I mean, you could just go through almost every single club and see the incredible history that they've got on all of them. Mourinho back as a young, that arrogant manager. He's still arrogant, but back as a young, arrogant manager. Frank Lampard back in the team. Zola's in the team. If you look at Derby County, they've got all their best players back as well. It really is just so nice to see. And Leicester, of course, have got Claudio Ranieri back in charge, but their team, they've got N'Golo Kante still in there, Mahrez is in there, Vardy. A lot of these players still at their original status, and that's the thing, because they're a more recent history. Most of their players are still the original ones from before, but they do have an 18-year-old Gary Lineker back at the club. So what we're going to also do is take a look at the national sides, because if we have a look at England, for instance, you can see managed by Alf Ramsey at the moment. They've got their most historic, legendary manager in charge. And if we just have a look at the senior squad for England, you can see Stanley Matthews, Bobby Charlton, Duncan Edwards, Gordon Banks is in there. It really is just the best players. And when you drop down also to the under-21s, this is where the likes of Beckham are. Kevin Keegan, of course, at Liverpool. We should have a look at that Liverpool squad as well. Frank Lampard, Alan Shearer in there, 17 years old, ready to set a new record in the Premier League, hopefully. Gary Neville in there as well. And then in the under-19s, you do have the likes of Steven Gerrard, Paul Scholes, Michael Owen back in there as well. Tony Adams is in there. Sol Campbell back in there as well. But if we just have a look at that Liverpool squad, which is going to be full of so many legends, Bob Paisley, the man picked to lead Liverpool once more, and that senior squad, Kevin Keegan, Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, John Barnes, Alan Hansen, they have got so many world-class players in their team. I'd be surprised if they aren't pushing for that Premier League title. So what we're going to do is go forward 1 year, see how the leagues have turned out in the major European leagues, who the champions are, who's won the Champions League, who's won the Europa League, and then we'll just end the video there, I think, because we will already have looked at so much. If there are teams or players you want me to look up in the next part, do let me know down in the comments. And as I said before, make sure to drop a like on this video if you're enjoying it, and subscribe for future parts in this series. But let's go forward and see who's won the league. Well, we are now 1 year into the future, and as you can see, Manchester United have won the Premier League title. Not massively unsurprising, it has to be said. Arsenal in second place, Everton third, and Liverpool rounding out the Champions League places. Stoke have done extremely well. Spurs and Leeds up there as well. Newcastle managing to avoid relegation, but West Brom, West Ham, surprisingly, and Blackburn have all gone down. I'm surprised West Ham have gone down with Bobby Moore in the team. But if you look at their senior squad, it's not as full of legends as you would expect. Paul Ince, of course, in there as well. And Paolo Di Canio also in there as 19-year-old. Frank Lampard Sr. in there. And Trevor Brooking as well. Joe Cole back in the team. Jeff Hurst, of course, 21 years old as a striker at the moment. Not actually that amazing a striker. It was his World Cup final heroics that built him his legend. But they are now down in the Championship as a result. Blackburn and West Brom also joining them. If we do just have a look at the overview, or rather if we have a look at the historical stats, because unfortunately the game is ticked a little bit too far to look at the actual records from last season. You can see the highest goal scorer was Dixie Dean for Everton with 30 goals, a real legendary English striker there, getting 30 Premier League goals. The most goals in a match, Joseph Beacon. Most assists went to Danny Blanchflower of Spurs there. A huge number of assists, 22. Most clean sheets went to Jack Kelsey of Arsenal, but the highest average rating went to George Best, the best player in the league that year. And if you also look at most player of the matches, George Best again in there. Worst discipline was Jamie Vardy. Youngest player, James Ward-Prowse making his debut. And oldest player, Michael Carrick, of 48 years, 247 days. That seems like a little bit of a mistake. I'm not sure why Michael Carrick had his date set to 1969, but there you go. Youngest goal scorer was Gareth Bale breaking onto the scene, and the oldest was Peter Crouch scoring, of course. Fastest goal went to Alvin Martin. Just have a look at some of these other stats as well. But overall, you can see not too many of the records actually changing more recently. But Manchester United, the breakaway team, if we look at their overview and senior squad as it stands at the moment, we can see Bobby Charlton in his career stats here got 38 games, 15 goals, 14 assists, a prolific goal scorer for midfield. But George Best, the best player in the league, got 9 goals, 6 assists in the league, 19 goals and 9 assists in all competitions for United. So overall, doing a very, very good job. If we look at the transfer history, going back to last season, you can see a few players moving around, but not too many of the legends actually shifting position. Dele Alli from MK Dons has gone to Arsenal this time. Ericsson has moved to Liverpool. You got the likes of Handanovic moving for just £3 million as well. But not too many legends on the move at this stage. Leonardo Bonucci going to West Ham there as an 18-year-old on a free transfer, because some of these will have obviously not had permanent contracts just yet. Just trying to see the rest of them, their loans. But even in the most recent season, you can see some of these big names. Francesco Totti's gone to Liverpool, no longer going to spend his time at one club. Pirlo has moved to Chelsea. Let me know in the comments if you see any other big transfers in here. But at the moment, it looks like it's not too bad. Scott Parker has gone to Wolves. Great to see him back as a youngster. No doubt diving into the tacticals. Koscielny's gone to United for just 2.1 million. And Mesut Ozil has gone to Arsenal on a free transfer as a 17-year-old. When he was at Schalke, he's left on a free transfer. I'm sure Schalke have got some sensational players in their team as well. If we do have a look at the Bundesliga next and have a look at their stages for last year, unsurprisingly, Bayern Munich have won that league by an absolute margin, 86 points in it for them. And when we look at their senior squad, you can see why. They've got Gerd Müller, Franz Beckenbauer, Runegi, Lothar Matthäus in there, Oliver Kahn back in goal. We've got to get a nice look at just the widest mouth in football, it has to be said. But a very, very strong team. Gerd Müller obviously leading their line as well. If we look at his career stats for last season, 27 goals, 37 in all competitions there for Gerd Müller as he tears up the Bundesliga. Dortmund finishing in third place. Obviously got a few great players. Surprised that Klopp isn't their manager, to be honest, but there you go. I'm sure a Dortmund fan is going to absolutely rinse me for saying that. But they're one of the best teams. But Cologne actually were the team that finished second. I'm not too familiar with German legends, I have to be honest here. My specialty lies more in the Premier League than elsewhere. So if there is a German fan in there who can give us a bit more information about where we should be looking and who to expect to win the league, let me know down in the comments. But let's also have a look at La Liga if we can. And we can see that Barcelona have won La Liga, 2 points clear of Real Madrid, who are just 1 point further ahead of Atletico. Nothing changes, does it? But we can see Barcelona, of course, managed by Johan Cruyff. And when you look at their senior squad, absolutely sensational. Ronaldinho is back at the club when really he should surely have been at PSG, but he is back at Ronaldinho. Laudrup in there. Rivaldo is back in there. As a 19-year-old, Puyol in there. The interesting thing about Barcelona is they do also have Lionel Messi in their squad, but clearly he is just not playing at the moment. Not in their under-19 squad either. Where is Messi? Has he left Barcelona? If we can find him. No, he's in the Barcelona B squad. That's why. I mean, he must be absolutely destroying the Barcelona B team. He's actually not doing that well there, so definitely, if you're running a team in this database, you should look at trying to pick up Lionel Messi because it looks like he's going to be available. But overall, they've done very, very well there. Barcelona winning the league ahead of Real Madrid. And if we just look at some of these player stats here, you can see top goal scorer was Escudero of Atletico Madrid. He did very well. Obviously has age on his side as a 23-year-old, and some of these players will do well because they are around 23. But you can see top goal scorer there, Escudero, Gabala of Barcelona behind him, Campanella further behind, Di Stefano finishing in fourth place, a little bit surprising. Most assists, we had 4 players tied on 14, including Di Stefano, Ben Barek of Atletico, Carpin and Belaust of Atletico Bilbao, or Athletic Bilbao. And most clean sheets went to Iribar of Athletic as well. Alonso up there. Just so many great names. And if we look at the highest average rating, you've got Kubala of Barcelona leading the way here. He seems to have been the best player in the league, the Hungarian. 25 goals, 8 assists in his league games. But you've also got Puskás up there, as you would expect, for Real Madrid. He managed to get 16 goals and 7 assists, so doing very, very well. But ultimately, it was Barcelona who took the league. Alaves, Oviedo and Levante all getting relegated from the Primera Division. If we have a look at Serie A, then we can see Juventus have won this, 2 points clear of Inter, Fiorentina in third, Milan in fourth. Juventus managing to take this. They've got Trapattoni in charge. If we just have a quick look at their senior squad as well, Bonaperti, their highest valued player, Del Piero back in the team as well, Zambrotta is in there, Camoranesi in there, Antonio Conte back as a player, and then just so many great players. Also, we can have a quick look at the stats here. We can see player stats. I'm surprised Ronaldo hasn't finished top scorer, but it was actually Meazza who has won it for Inter. Piola up there, Sorensen. Ronaldo finished 4th with 19 goals, so 2 Inter players in the top 4 there. Sivori for Juventus, and then Mancini finishing with 16 as well. Most players of the match went to Meazza as well, and the most assists went to Mazzola. So Inter, despite not winning the league, cleaning up in the player ratings, and the most clean sheets was also Zanega of Inter. Gianluigi Buffon back as a 19-year-old at Parma, finishing in second place. I'm sure he will get a move soon. Now, if we just have a look at the world screen here, then we can take a look at the top players in the world. Obviously, we kind of are familiar with those already, but if we look at the transfers for so far this month, you can see quite a few big players on the move already. Pirlo, we've already mentioned. Vincent Kompany's gone from Anderlecht to Swansea. Very good signing for them. Slavan Bilic has gone to Hibs from West Ham. Scott Parker, we saw, went to Swansea as well, who is starting to pick up a few good young players. And not too many others showing up here for this month. If we go and have a look at last year in 2017, then we can see in the June and July transfers, some good free transfers may well have been picked up. Not too many there. In July, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer left Molde for Milan, so that's one heck of a player for them to pick up, the baby-faced assassin. Gignac moving as well. Other key players down here. Obviously getting to the cheaper ones. Down in the free transfer section we might find a few more. These of course would have been players who are on youth contracts. There are an awful lot of free transfers. I've been scrolling for a little while and I've only got this far down because all of these players, like Saul of course, who is now quite well known, but you can see they're just all disappearing, taking a while to load. There are so many free transfers, it's literally impossible for me to go through all of these and pick out the best names. But you can see the teams that they're moving to are pretty decent teams, which lets you know they are very, very good players. If you spot any players in here, do let me know in the comments. But I can't look through all of those. There are just too many. It'll be easier when they get a bit older and there's a bit of value in them. So you can see some of these players starting to move on. If we just think about some of the other players that are absolutely world famous, we've got Diego Maradona at Napoli. He managed to get 9 assists and 6 goals in his first season as well. We've got the likes of Eusebio, who's at Benfica. They must have some incredible players thinking about it. If we look at their senior squad, Eusebio obviously leading the way for them. But some very, very famous Portuguese names in there as well. I'm sure they will do well. So let's head over to the Champions League next, because that's the one big competition we want to have a look at. If we have a look at last season, and maybe start with the first knockout round, you can see the teams making it through here. Leeds were in the Champions League this time. Spartak Moscow beaten by Real Madrid. Saint Etienne were in there as well. In the quarterfinals, Arsenal managed to beat Juventus. Benfica got a win. Milan managing to beat Atletico, and Inter managed to get past Real Madrid despite their 3-1 defeat in the second leg. I just want to have a quick look at this. This is Red Star Belgrade. I was thinking that. different name, I'm sure. If we go to the semi-finals, Arsenal managed to beat Benfica and Inter beat AC Milan. And in the final, it was Inter who managed to win it 3-1. The final result there. Unfortunately, can't see the goalkeepers. But if we look at the overview for this, you can see Inter Milan there, the latest winners of the Champions League. If we drop down to the Europa League and have a look at the progression of this competition going back to last season and start the quarterfinals, you can see Bayern were beaten by Stade Reims, Torino beat Partizan, Schalke and Marseille also getting victories. In the semis, it was Stade Reims and Marseille that managed to go through, two French teams, and in the final, Stade Reims were the team that won the Europa League. In Liga, not a league I've got loaded at the moment, it was Monaco who took the title home ahead of Lille and PSG. Monaco, some very, very good players. PSG probably going to have more interest in history because they only have very, very recent history, but they do have Georgie Weah at the club. £53 million, 19-year-old striker. Got 22 goals in 34 games for them in the league. Other big names in there. JJ Okocha, of course, at the club as an 18-year-old. He did all right last season. Just 7.22, not the best in the world. But overall, a very, very exciting save this. So I think that's all that I'm going to have a look at in this first part. Obviously, there is so much that you could look at in this experiment. So do let me know if there's things I've missed that you'd like me to check out next time using the comments. Drop a like on the video if you would like to see another part to this experiment. And make sure to subscribe for the next part that will be out in a couple of days' time. But until next time, see ya.